Hello, my fellow journalers, and welcome to the Jellyfish Journals. Today, when I sat down to work on my 2025 reading journal, I decided I was going to start with this Read the World page. And if you watched my 2025 reading journal plan video, then you might have seen what my intentions are for this page. But essentially, I worked on a similar concept in my current journal, which I would not call a reading journal because it's kind of an everything journal. But the idea is that for every book you read, you document the setting of that book. And I worked on that currently with the United States, which is where I live. And I thought it would be a little more interesting to include other countries in the world, other continents, as I was trying to fill out and maybe not complete the United States, but at least hopefully fill most of it in. I started realizing that a lot of books that I read actually take place in Europe or just other places of the world. Sorry, it still throws me off to watch myself very rapidly create these spreads as though I have not sat there staring at the paper for 20 minutes trying to figure out what I want to do. I just look so decisive in these videos. It's kind of funny and very surreal. So anyway, sorry. Hopefully I don't end up saying that in every video moving forward, but it's still a little bit of a shock. Anyway, as I was saying, a lot of the books that I read take place in different countries in Europe. One of my favorite authors is Lisa C. A lot of her books take place in Asia, specifically China and that area. And I actually read a couple of books that took place in Australia this year. And so I really wanted a way to kind of track all the books that I'm reading around the world. And I wanted, ideally, this would look like a map of the world with all of the continents being in the right places. But because I read a lot of books that take place in the United States and Europe, I needed those to be a little bit larger than, say, Africa, which I have never read a book that took place in Africa, and Asia, which, as I said, most of the books that I read in Asia are Lisa C's books. A couple other books that I've read. I read a memoir called, I think it was called Falling Leaves, and it was a memoir about a girl who was raised in China. She had an interesting story. In any case, the idea is that I will, color the country or the state where the books that I'm reading take place. And once a space is filled in, it's just filled in for the year. I have no aspirations of reading everywhere in the world. I don't really have any aspirations of making sure I hit every continent. I'm not the kind of reader who says I want to read books by this kind of person or that take place in this location. It's more just a happenstance. So if I pick up a book that sounds really good and it happens to take place in Australia, then great. Australia will get a little bit of a color in here. Anyway, I rounded the edges of this just so it didn't quite look as harsh. Something about straight edges sometimes feels perfect and sometimes straight edges feel a little harsh. So I laid the wood paper in the background across the middle just to give it some interest. And now I'm trying to figure out which colors I might want to use on this page. I liked the idea of green and the wood coming together. And that way the maps aren't washed out with the white. So the white really pops against the wood grain of the paper, but once the white is laid over the dot grid, it kind of fades away. And I don't know, to me, it just looked kind of dull. So I'm just kind of, I took this Tombow pen. I'm trying to see, it looks like it's number 312. And all I'm doing is I'm just going around the border of each of those pieces of paper. And I just found these maps on Google and printed them up. You can pretty much do that. I think I just Googled each continent and typed in free outline printable or black and white outline or something of that nature. I knew I didn't want the names of the countries on there, so I'll be okay for the United States, but if I get to some of these other places, I'm going to have to look it up. It'd be really cool to read a book that takes place in Siberia just because it's so gigantic. It'd be fun to have all that colored in, but oh well, I'm not going to stress about that. When I went around the edges of all of this one time, it just looked a little scraggly to me, so I'm pretty sure I go back and add a second layer just to darken it and thicken it and make it look a little more consistent, not quite so scraggly. Yeah, there I go. I've read a couple of memoirs that take place in South America. One of my very favorite memoirs, probably my favorite, is called The Puma Years. I cannot think of the author's name off the top of my head, but it was actually a Prime read, one of those first reads that they send out every month if you're a Prime member, and you get to choose a free book on your Kindle. And that's pretty much the only Kindle reading I do, is the free reads that I get each month. And that was one that popped up, I think it was last year. And I just thought, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. So gave it a try and fell in love with memoirs, fell in love with that book. And I happened to find the book on Amazon, which makes sense because it was an Amazon Prime book at one point. And I actually ordered the paperback, which is the first time I've ever done that with a free Prime book. I just enjoyed the book so much that, I don't know, I really wanted it on my shelf, and I probably will reread it. I don't know if 2025, I'll reread it, but I definitely know it's a reread in my future. I like to reread books that make an impression on me so they stay fresh. So when I recommend them, I'm not mixing up facts or details, and I like to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I decided this black and white grid washi looked really cute to kind of tape them on there and just make it look like they're being taped to the page, the little maps. And just as something to have a little interest there. In the end, I think opposite corners were fine. And but really keeping it simple. I don't know if I'll color in with greens or pinks, but there's my Read the World spread. Then I decided I was going to pop back towards the front of my 2025 journal. As I said, I am all over the place. I just pop around till something feels right, or I can picture it in my head how I want it to look. And I was really excited to make all these little stripes. I've seen a lot of reading journalists do this on Instagram and YouTube, and I just love how it looks. When I was bullet journaling, I was a pretty avid bullet journaler for about a year, maybe half a year. It ended up being super time consuming the way I do things. As I've said before, I can be a little slow and persnickety, and I just could not seem to spit out bullet journal spreads as fast as I wanted to keep it fun and, I guess, uncumbersome for my life. But anyway, when I did bullet journal, I had gratitude pages, or no, that's not right. I think it was a line a day. That sounds right. And I got that idea from my stepdaughter. She is also a very crafty, creative person. Hi, Paige, I love you. And she was the one that first turned me on to one line a day. And so I've done the every other line with a marker thing before. And I don't know, it ends up looking really finished in a weird way, even though I know this is definitely not finished at all. I need to add all of the books that I'll be reading, or once I read each book in 2025. I'm not going to write them in advance, of course. But it just kind of adds a whole lot of color to a page, and it's super quick and easy to do. And I just really love the way it looks when I'm done, if you can't tell by how emphasizing I am with my voice. So I did the lines in green, and then the heading and where I'm going to write the numbers in like a peachy color in a Tombow marker. At some point in these videos, I do think I show them a little bit better, And if not, when I do my full journal walkthrough, I have a little swatch card, and so I'll be sure that all of those numbers are definitely zoomed in on. I don't think I thought to do that in this video. And I'm just right now numbering, so each line, whether it's white or green, is going to get a number. I have mentioned before, I do not set a goal for myself for reading. I just like to read, and sometimes that means I will get through a lot of books in a month, which is usually in the summers because I'm a teacher and my kids are a bit older and I don't need to do too much to entertain or care for them. As far as making the meals or doing their laundry, things like that. They're pretty capable of doing all of those things now. And so in the summer, I tend to hit a lot of books, but I've also noticed that there are just times when I'm just not necessarily a slower reader, but just life gets full and there's just a lot of things happening, and maybe I pull out a book every night to read in bed and pass out in 5 minutes and I just don't get very far. So I just don't stress about it. I numbered these pages based on how many books I've read this year in 2024. I think I'm close to 120 books, and we're inching up on the middle of November right now. And so I made space for 140 books. Again, I don't care if I don't get through all those books, but if by some miracle I rip through a whole bunch of them, or if anything happens and I find myself with a lot of time to read and get through some, I know one of my reading challenge choices is Animal Farm. That's super short, so whatever month I read that in, it's probably not going to take me super long to get through that, and I might get through more books that month. But anyway, 140, I will be happy if I hit that because it means that I've gotten through more books on my TBR. But again, I'm not that worried about it. So for this, in order to get that effect, or to fit that many books in, I should say, without needing to decorate 2 full spreads, I created a Dutch door. This is a pretty popular bullet journal, reading journal trick, I guess is the right word, or hack. But I basically just took the 2 pages. So I have the page on the left that says reading and the page on the right that says log. And I just took the 1 page, in the middle, and I just trimmed around it so that instead of having a full page there, I have a smaller page. And all that does is give it this ability to flip that middle part over that middle page, and the decorations at the top are functional for both pages now, for the whole reading log, as opposed to decorating full-size pages and needing to decorate 4 full-size pages. Now I really only had to decorate 2 of them. I put the grid washi at the bottom, just trying it out, kind of letting it sit there while I see how I feel about it on there. In the end, I think I decided it just feels too heavy for the bottom of this page. So, pardon me, so I don't worry about that too much. As far as my reading log, I am only planning to log the title, the author, and the rating. I did have a plan to show you guys my October update, so that you guys could see how I do my rating. I pretty much just give a book 1 to 5 stars depending on how much of an impact it made on me. Just meaning, was it memorable? Is it going to stick? Would I recommend it? I don't really have a set, I guess key for book ratings. It's really just a feeling that I get, and there's not really any rule or rhyme or reason to it. Typically, if a book is 1 or 2 stars, I probably didn't even finish it. So the only books ratings you'll ever really see on here are 3 to 5 stars, unless somebody has insisted I finish a book they've recommended. And that was pretty much it. And on to my A to Z challenge. So I've already gone in and created all of the boxes and put the letters in there in this kind of typeface font. I just thought it looked kind of bookish, I guess. And I am currently taking the Tombow 312 marker again, and my plan is to outline just the inside of the box. I don't know, is that called an inline then? I don't know. But kind of go around the inside edge of all the boxes. And I was trying to leave the tiniest little bit of white space. And at some point, you'll see I just kind of decide I didn't like it and it was getting too tricky to try to make sure that white space was there. It's quite possible I even mess up at some point, and I'm pretty good at fixing my mistakes or making them at least look intentional. So if I did go back at some point, or if I did make the mistake of not leaving that little tiny white edge between the green and the black border, then I just made it look like I meant to do that by doing it to all of the boxes. So if you ever make a mistake in your book and you're not sure what to do or how to fix it, I am going to tell you, I am your girl. See, there I go, fixing them all back up. But I am very good. I don't toot my own horn very often, but I'm pretty good at making a mistake look intentional or disguising my mistakes somehow or another. And so, yeah, if you ever get to a point in your journal or you make a mistake and you just feel like all hope is lost, don't give up until you've reached out to me, because there's a pretty good chance that I can help you with that. And I say that confidently because I teach 8 and 9-year-olds, and they are convinced that everything they do is a mistake all day, every day. And I, by the end of the year, have pretty much given them my, or passed on my talent, I guess. And they're pretty good at fixing their own mistakes at the end of the year instead of crying or getting frustrated or giving up. For the A to Z challenge, I am just planning to put the cover of the book in that empty space to the right of each letter. And once I read a book with that title or with that letter in the title, let me say that different. That didn't make sense. Once I read a book that starts with that letter in the title, then I will add that to this page. It'll probably, for the most part, fill up pretty quickly, except for the straggler letters like Q and X, which I've already decided when it comes to those letters, if the title has a Q or an X in it, I'm just going to let it be. Most of the other letters, I have not had any trouble this year finding books that start with any other letter of the alphabet. I'm currently reading Yellowface, and that will be my Y for 2024. And I'm pretty sure that just leaves me with Q and X. And yeah, I may not finish those. I may, if I have a book with a Q or an X in the title I haven't read, I might just save it. Don't tell anybody. I might just save it for 2025 so that this one can be all full and pretty, because it's a lot prettier than the one I'm currently using. But yeah, and I know some people count the. I don't count the word the. I might count the word a, but I'm not too sure. But I do know I've got a whole list of books just waiting to be added to this page. And I'll be persnickety honest here. Part of me is a little freaked out at the idea that I've spent so much time color coding all of these pages and making them look so pretty. And then I'm going to slap all these different colored covers with different fonts and people and images all over them, and it's going to kind of lose the vibe. But maybe that's another good reason to have made these videos, so I can always go back and remember when it was just clean and simple and perfect. So if you saw my last video, you saw me set up this spread, and I think I might have mentioned in that video that sometimes if I'm just not sure what else I want to do, I just kind of walk away. And I did, and as I walked away, I don't know, I gave it a few days, and I just knew I wasn't thrilled with the way I decorated this page. So you can see me trying out a few things, just trying to visualize what it's going to look like. But in the end, I do decide that it needs a little more love to feel cohesive, I guess, with the rest of the journal. And so I add a little bit of this wood paper to each of the corners, and that pretty much seems to do the job. I try to make sure that all the wood is going in the same direction, so the slats are vertical. So I'm going to make sure I do that for all the corners. And for the most part, I just rip a little bit of the corner, glue it down, and then trim the excess off the edge. So it doesn't take too long. I did buy a couple of sheets of this paper to play with. And I know I've mentioned like wastefulness, I guess, as far as washi tape and stickers. But if you watch my videos enough, you'll see that I do try to use like the tiniest scraps, like the little useless edges of things. So it isn't just that whatever I use, I just chuck all the extra. If there's even a chance it's usable, I'm pretty likely to hold on to it until the whole project is finished, and then the little scraps will get trashed. But until I decide that, I will hold on to everything. So I'm desperately trying to make that piece work, but I needed a larger piece. And this, again, is another page that I didn't feel like was quite completed. I wanted to add a little bit to that top corner, and I just love this wood paper. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and I just think it's really pretty. I love the little knot there in that wood. I didn't even plan that, but it's kind of a nice little touch. So now I feel like this page is pretty complete, and I'm happy with the title page now. And now, let's see. Oh, I guess I somehow magically remembered to go back and do that. That's kind of funny, because I thought this page was done. And let's see. All right. So now I'm on to the last spreads of this video, and this is the book awards spread. This was inspired, I cannot remember who, but I'm pretty sure I have it on my phone written down, so I will add a link to their Instagram or YouTube channel. I can't remember where I saw this. I just thought it was kind of a fun idea to kind of honor some books throughout the year that stood out to me in different ways. And I wasn't quite sure what awards I wanted to give, since there's already going to be a book bracket in this journal. I eventually decided that I would do the longest book that I read in 2025, the shortest book, the book with the prettiest cover, which that one's probably going to be pretty hard, the book with the ugliest cover, which I'm pretty sure I've already figured out what that's going to be, because that also connects to my reading challenge for next year, and the best memoir, and then just the worst book overall. That one will probably end up being a book I did not finish. Like I said, I just don't keep reading a book if I'm confident I'm not going to like it, or if it's got content that just doesn't sit with me. I'm sure everybody's got books like that where they're reading and they're kind of like, yeah, this is not my jam. So the worst book will probably be the book I DNF the fastest. So if I know pretty much right away. And yeah, so all I am going to do for these, first I'm cutting them to make sure they're the right size. And then I looked at the paper, the pink paper I got from Hobby Lobby also. And some of the paper, or some parts of the paper, had little images on it. So that top left one has that pretty floral, the bottom right has a butterfly. Some of the pages, or some of it, that middle left one has, it's hard to see, but it's got a little bit of some script writing on there. And I just wanted to make sure that they all felt balanced. I didn't want all the darker pieces to all end up at the bottom of the page, or, all the lightest ones at the top, and so on. So now I was trying to write that. I ended up not liking how I wrote that. So now I'm back to playing with them and trying to decide what part of the paper would fit in and not throw off all the other things that I so painstakingly decided on. You get used to it with me, I guess. I know I've said it before, but if I'm going to look at this all year, I don't want to look at it and say, why did I leave it like that? So I don't mind spending a little extra time on it if it brings me joy when I open it. So now I'm smart and I use a pencil, and then I just trace it with that Micron 08, try to do a little foligraphy, which is a lot easier than it seems. I've tried doing regular calligraphy. I'll be honest, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's ADHD, I don't know what it is, but whenever I try real calligraphy, I cannot focus enough to keep it going. Like, I might start the word out really pretty, and by the end of the word, it's like I've totally forgotten what I'm doing and how to hold the pen. So I have found that foligraphy works better for me. It takes a little bit longer, and it doesn't look as clean as calligraphy. So those of you that can do calligraphy, especially if you can use like a Crayola marker or the Tombow brush pen to do it, holy moly, I am so in awe of you. But for me, the foligraphy just works because all I have to remember is to thicken my downstrokes. And if I get up and walk away in the middle of a word, no sweat. I come back and I can still just keep on going. I don't have to worry too much about a steady hand or the consistency of anything. So that works well for me. I am a foligrapher for life. I am finding the older I get, it's a little harder to do tinier foligraphy. So we'll see, like, if I keep doing reading journals over the next few years, we'll see, like, how good I stay at it, I guess, or if it slowly gets worse over time, I guess is a more humble way to say that. But I'm having fun with it, and it's just a little bit of fun. I went to my Bible study group the other night, and I was the first one there at my women's study, and they had left name tags and brand new Sharpie permanent markers on the table. And I cannot tell you how much I love brand new Sharpies. They are just so much fun to write with. So I got bored, so I made name tags for the ladies at the table. And it was funny, they came in and they thought they'd been printed, and they were all making a big stink about it, like in a good way. And I just kind of kept trying to convince them, like, seriously, foligraphy is easy. Like, it really works. Honestly, on any handwriting, I feel like you could do it as long as your letters are spaced far enough apart to be able to thicken those downstrokes. So I'm almost done with this part, and next will be where I add the washi, and you saw me playing with it a minute ago to make some decisions. And so now I'm just kind of erasing, cleaning up a little bit with my fabulous fish eraser. But the idea for this page is I will glue the cover of the book underneath each of the little doors, and I'll turn them into little doors by adding some washi tape just to the left. And really that's all it needs to stick down and be able to open up. I mush it down a little bit. I fold the little doors to the left all the way so it gets that crease. That way it wants to open. It's not fighting it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple to do. I won't be able to fill this spread in until the very end of 2025. So I kind of like that there's little doors there. So the page will look finished all year, even if it's not actually done. I won't be staring at empty boxes the whole year. But there I go again. I totally forgot I did this, but I gave a little bit of color to the inside of the boxes. So that 312 Tombow pen again. And now I'm just going to stick this little bit of washi there. And I think at first I was going to make the washi a little bit longer than each of them. But I thought about it and I realized that they might bump into each other if I did that on all of them. And it really didn't make it any sturdier. It didn't do anything to make it any stronger or look any better. And if you can notice on the left there, it looks like that washi is going to look like one long stripe of washi, which is not what I wanted it to look like. I really wanted it to look like 6 little separate doors. And so you'll see I pull things off and I start trimming them. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I've learned about videoing that I tend to pull things a lot closer to me to work on them. So like cutting or writing, which might be pretty normal. I just need to start being aware that pulling it a little closer to me means I might be off camera. You'll see it's kind of there. Sometimes I remember, oh yeah, there's a video going on here. I should probably put my hands under the camera. But then I'll immediately forget again. So apologies for that, but you can tell that I trimmed them down to the same size. And so now I have 6 little doors. And the last step is just to add a little bit of a decoration to the top. And I think I add a strip of wooden washi. Yeah, there it is. Just to give it a little bit of wood, little contrast so the whole page isn't just pink and green. And right now I really wanted to kind of keep the sticker flat on the dot grid paper so that you can see everything inside the sticker. It's a little tricky. Sometimes you can lay vellum stickers right over washi and sometimes not. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.